Hi, and welcome to It's All Relational with 3M. It's been a minute since we've done a podcast, but
It has.
that's okay because we've had a lot of fun stuff happening and a lot of fun stuff going on. And I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit recently.
Yes.
And so that's why we're going to do our podcast today on our relationship with travel, because there's so many different elements with travel and everything. So, again, I'm Marianne, and I have my wonderful, supportive, loving husband who I love very much, Jacob.
Hello.
That's my cute husband.
That's me.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've had... Oh, there's hair in my mouth. Okay, sorry. Sorry. I'm shedding. It's my
we don't have
spring
any
shed.
cats, do we?
No, it's my spring shed.
It's
my
your
hair,
spring.
My hair just falling out.
Those darn gingers, they just
Hey.
keep shedding, I guess.
We do have souls. I'm just saying.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Of course you do.
So, so today's topic is our relationship with travel as an individual or as a single person and traveling by yourself versus traveling as a couple or with friends or with somebody else that you're in relationship with. Because there's a lot of dynamics. And I think when you travel with somebody, you learn a lot.
Yes.
And when you travel by yourself, you also learn a lot.
Yes.
And so I, having been an only child, I like being by myself a lot, but I also I hate doing certain things by myself.
Yes. Sorry.
I don't know where that came from, but okay. Anyway, so I just kind of want to talk about that because even though I haven't traveled a ton in my lifetime, I've had a few opportunities to travel with groups, travel by myself, travel with my spouse.
Who's that?
Travel with my family. Yeah, travel with Jacob. So
That's me.
and it's really interesting. Also then traveling with extended family gets interesting, different dynamics and everything. So
Oh, yes.
it's really fun to talk about how travel, even packing, doing all this stuff that's entailed with travel can impact your relationship and how you communicate and stuff. And so we just kind of want to dive into that. And the reason why I am one of those people that have a strong wanderlust, right? I love to wander and experience new things. Sitting and reading a textbook or I'd rather spend money traveling the world and gaining experience than going to a traditional university or whatever. I know that's weird, but
Weren't you going to school for a while?
I am going to school, but if I had my choice, I'd rather take the money and just travel the world.
Whoa.
And be
take
able,
the money and run.
Yeah. I don't even know that song, but okay.
You don't know that song?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't. But it's okay. So, the definition of wanderlust is to have a strong longing for or an impulse even toward wandering or traveling. And so I've been able to experience a lot of different types of travel. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about other people. I've learned how I interact with other people. I've learned how I don't want to interact with people. But it's really fun. And so I'm kind of excited because how I travel with another person has changed since getting married to Jacob. And so we're going to go through and just kind of pontificate.
What? Hold, please. P-U-N.
Pon.
P-O-N.
Pontificate.
What is that? Expresses one's opinions in a way considered annoyingly pompous and dogmatic.
Okay, so maybe we won't get too dogmatic, but it is our opinions, and maybe, I don't know.
Like, annoyingly pompous.
Hopefully it won't be annoyingly pompous. Oh, because we have had the experience that maybe a lot of people haven't had. And I've been able to travel out of the country and stuff, and I realized...
You've traveled twice now out of the country without me.
Okay, well, I manifested that crap. Okay, so if you want to travel with me, you got to like envision some stuff with me then. Love you.
Yeah,
okay.
I love you too.
So I'd love to travel more, but part of traveling requires money. So as you know, we'll do a podcast on money and our relationship with money. But as I work on my relationship with money and figuring out ways to earn more, so this is one of my big reasons why, usually when you're setting goals and everything, my goal to make more money has a lot to do with the desire for travel and having new experiences and having the ability to educate myself through actual experience in different cultures, different areas of the world and all that stuff. So this is one of my whys, and I want to have a stronger relationship with travel and experiences. And so I think this is a great topic for us to dive into because it touches various aspects of relationships that we have, right? Relationship with ourselves, relationship with crowds, even relationship.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we don't do what we are working hard to be better in crowds.
Right. But just relationship with even like your ability to plan and foresee, there's a lot of things that come into play when you're traveling amongst the economically, it would be different if I could afford a staff member to pack all my stuff for me, fly on my private jet, and have all my travel plans planned by a personal assistant or something. So there's different ways to travel. And that can all be impacted by the amount of money you make because, money buys things.
Well, it was actually a really fun experience when we went on our Cancun trip in Mexico and we got to fly the bigger seats back. It wasn't first class, but it was, what is it?
Business class.
Business class.
Yes, we upgraded on Spirit.
Yeah, that was actually nice. In comparison, it's just I'm how tall I am, being 6'3" is just those darn tubes with wings do not bode well with my height.
And it's interesting because your body even affects your travel experience.
Right, yes.
In so many ways. So traveling is one of those things that really give you an opportunity to look at various relationships that you have in your life.
Right.
Right? So relationships with other people, relationships with your body, relationships with sleep. Oh my gosh, jet lag, all this sort of stuff.
Trying to sleep on the plane.
How your body reacts to different environments, different altitudes, all this sort of stuff. It's amazing. And so this is one of those really broad topics, but we're going to kind of focus on we've got 4 main questions we're going to ask. So let's go ahead and dive in. Jacob,
sounds great. What
do you think? Okay.
Let's get
By the way, how long have we been going?
Almost 10 minutes.
Oh, really? That's a long introduction. Sorry, y'all. Hope I didn't bore you with my pontification.
Pontification? Oh, with the voices.
Okay. So, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but the first question I have that I want to kind of have a discussion about is, why do you have a desire to travel? So for me, why do I have a strong desire to travel? I kind of talked about it a little bit, but Jacob, do you have a strong desire to travel? If so, why? What?
Yeah, I would say I do. Even the traveling process, long drives can be really fun and entertaining, especially when you're listening to books or podcasts and you got to pause it and be like, hey, how about this point? Or what do you think about this? Well, you have to
pause it because I get really upset if you start trying to have a conversation with me.
Okay, when you're trying to conversate over Joe
and I'm
Rogan.
like, I can't listen to both of you. Or if you wanted to have a conversation with me, stop it. So I can we can carry on a conversation, but then listen to the rest. So yeah.
Oh, and sometimes it's just like a fleeting just thought, and I'm just like, I'm gonna blurt this out. So sometimes I have to worry about the expectation of, okay, we need to start and stop and make sure that we have a start and stop between going from a podcast or a book to a conversation about the topic of whatever is going on.
Right. So I agree. Driving is a fairly pleasant way to drive or to travel, which is interesting because when we first met, we took a road trip to Utah so you could meet my mom before you asked for my hand in marriage.
That's right. I did do that. I put a ring on it.
Yeah. So it was what was it? It was like a 8-hour drive. No, how long of a drive was it?
From where my parents live to there, yeah, it's about 8-9 hours.
Yeah, it's a pretty
hefty drive.
It's a pretty long drive.
Yeah.
And we had only known each other
gosh, not even a month, I think, at that point.
21 days.
Because we met at the end of January.
We met on January 31st.
Oh, so we were only 2 to 3 weeks knowing each other, and we took our first road trip.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It kind of was an opportunity for us to kind of get to know each other really, really fast.
Yeah. Well, we definitely took the fast track to get to know each other before we got married. So, I mean, that's pretty normal in the Utah LDS world.
Mormon culture, yeah.
Mormon culture, it's short periods of time for courting and engagement into. I think we were only engaged maybe a month.
Right, but getting in a car with somebody for that long,
yeah,
that's a good way to kind of get to know each other. I remember we had discussions about aliens and ghosts and where we stood on all of this, the real important stuff for when you get married.
Yeah, for sure.
But we were still fairly new. So,
what are your political linings?
Yeah, we talked a lot about that.
Yeah, we did. And a lot of stuff lined up, and some of it was just hey, what do you think? And
yeah,
it's not really, I mean, believing in ghosts or aliens are not as important for a relationship as, maybe religious beliefs or political linings or topics.
Stuff that's not going to cause too much conflict. If we both had an extreme belief one way or the other on aliens to the point where we were fighting over, you know what I mean? You can fight over whatever you want. Anyway.
Right.
Going back, sorry, let's get back. So what other things about travel, why do you like to travel?
For me, it's a reset away from, to get away from the daily grind, Monday through Friday, and it allows my body and mind to kind of reset and prepare itself for another few months stint or the following year, things like that. So for you, it's more of a quick environment change. Yeah.
Okay. So are you messing with the cameras?
Yes, because I wanted to keep you kind of centered on your side. So I was hoping to do that without you noticing, but you did. That's so funny. Okay. But yeah, for me, it's just about just kind of resetting my mind and my spiritual well-being, getting out into the open. For me, it's trees. Anything with trees and nature is really good and healthy for me to kind of reset away from everything. It seems that, being around concrete and dead wood and plaster and everything else just is, it's depressive to, I think, for some of us. And so I get a recharge when I reach out to nature in that way.
So your ideal destinations are more let's go camping or let's go rent a cabin in the woods or let's go to some secluded place or some secluded bungalow on the beach or, stuff like that, where I can totally appreciate that. And I love that too. But I also want to, like, my desire comes from a place of I want to see firsthand and experience firsthand different things. So, like, I had the opportunity to go to Italy at the beginning of March, which was amazing. And it's not like, I mean, we went through different spokes, but like Rome is concrete and stone and like massive amounts of people. Oh, and I've learned.
Sounds terrible.
See, right. But it was amazing.
Anyway.
But the thing is the experience was amazing because you get to see a whole different culture and lifestyle. Like they walk everywhere. Like there are no trucks in Rome. They're all the little smart cars or the little Vespas, and they walk everywhere. Like we walked an average of 10 miles a day when we were in Rome.
But isn't everything like in that city pretty close together, so it's reasonable to walk everywhere, or not really?
Well, yeah, it is, but you're still walking. I mean, it maybe feels closer together, but like there were people in my tour group, which we could talk about later. They were like, I need a bathroom. And the tour guide's like, oh, yeah, okay. And like you had to pay for stuff, so she was trying to walk us to bathrooms that we didn't have to pay for and stuff. But it was a lot of walking.
Pay to go to the bathroom? What is that?
In some areas. Ugh. But when you pay to go to the bathroom, you know you're going to a clean bathroom because they have an attendant there that like cleans stuff. And like in high tourist areas,
that makes sense.
I much rather would pay 50 cent or 50 whatever it is, the little 50 euro, whatever I don't know,
coins are,
to go to the bathroom because I know it's clean and attended to and it's picked up, and especially like in areas that are like that see millions upon millions of tourists every day, or month, week, whatever. So I can appreciate that. Like I'm all for a strong immune system, don't get me wrong. I'm all for a strong immune system. I'm not like a freaking germaphobe. But like when it's that many people, that tourist type stuff, I don't know. I like it. But that's an experience. Would I want to live there or spend a large amount of time there? I don't know. Because I didn't have the opportunity to stay a long time. But I think there's different reasons that compel me to want to travel. Mm-hmm. Right? But when I plan for something, it's usually I want to experience something. Whereas if I want to reset, it's more like, oh, let's just go up to the mountains or let's plan a weekend away. And it like the reset type of travel doesn't require as much planning or forethought in my mind,
right,
as an experiential type.
Right.
So what else motivates you? Or why? What's your desire? Why do you desire anything else? I mean,
well, also like travel for me, especially growing up, I always knew that if we were traveling, especially, we're going to be seeing like family members we haven't seen in a while, and that's always really great to reconnect with family that you haven't been able to like see face to face. I mean, it's a different experience than like FaceTime or phone or text like that. And so when you actually get to see them and you can hug them and really experience their expressions.
And you're a hugger.
You're a hugger. I'm somebody who likes to embrace, and so that's something that I grew up doing that.
Yeah, you are a very physical. You're like my big teddy bear.
Just hugs. Like we grew up shaking hands and hugging like family members. So
no, I love that. So it's good. So like your experience with travel has been more centered around traveling to see family and spend time with family.
Yeah.
Not necessarily going to a destination to experience the culture or experience the different sites or something like that.
Like a monument or like history. Yeah. Like I think those can be fun too. It's just like
that comes into, because like for us, like I like the experiential stuff, and so that we have to work on that when we travel together. Like our expectations, we have to figure that out and work it out, because when we don't, it can cause frustration.
Right. Like, and that's something that's really important to kind of talk about, when we do go on extended trips, to kind of talk about our expectations as far as like, okay, what are we accomplishing with this? Is this something we're just going out to reset and relax and do nothing? Is this something we're going to family, and so we're going to be constantly at the beckoning call of like family members to help prepare, cook, and, clean, at family gatherings, or if it's something we're going out, like you said, for something more experiential, where we're like trying to see the different sites in that particular area, or, understanding like different historical importance of those different areas. It's important to kind of talk to your significant other, your companion, your spouse, to kind of figure out what that looks like for you guys. That way, when you get there, you actually have something in mind and you're both on the same page. And so someone's thinking it's something else while your other person is thinking it's something else, and then
it took us a minute. An issue. Yeah, it took us a minute. It took us some different times to travel and really kind of hammer that out. And it's like we didn't understand or know our own expectations sometimes.
Right.
Until we were in the situation. And then it was like, oh, I don't like this. And like we had to make adjustments. But we'll dive into that a little bit later. But one thing that really motivates me, and the reason why I love to travel, is because I love the memories. Because the experience with family or loved ones, or the memories I get from that experience, are the only things that I can take with me when I leave, right? Like, I'm not going to take all this junk to buy or whatever, but the experiences I have on this earth and the memories I have, like, for instance, some of my fondest memories and my happiest memories are the memories of me camping with my dad.
Yeah.
Or me going, like, we went to Jackson Hole, or him taking me out of school and taking a weekend trip up to Park City to see a concert and stay at the hotel.
Right.
Like, those were special, right? And it was going somewhere outside of our day-to-day and creating memories together was really important to me. And I think that's one reason why I have such a desire to travel.
Because it brings back those feelings and emotions of safety, and
not brings back. I think it just gives me something to look back on, or to either reminisce about, but then also something to look forward to when I'm planning. But that can be dangerous as well, because if it doesn't go the way you expect.
Right.
So like if you have expectations and they're not met, you're like, well, that trip sucked. Blah, 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 blah.
But those are the perfect times to be like, okay, so what could we have done different? Like, could we have set better expectations, or, can we not put ourselves in the same situation so that it will,
but even traveling together or traveling with friends or whatever, it's just like, I took a trip with my cousin and my friend Cami. We went to Ireland. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. So we were in 5 different countries, so to speak, in the EU.
Okay.
And it was a wonderful trip. Like, I had so much fun. And there were instances where there was some conflict. Like, I went off and not conflict, but like, I wanted to do something different than my friends did. So I went off separately on my own, and it scared them because we didn't have phone service, so we couldn't call. And they were like, oh, they were all... So it was weird. So there was some communication that could have happened better. I learned that was my first time traveling out of the country with other people and stuff. But like, I love those memories, right? Like, I have such vivid memories and they make me happy.
Yeah.
So I'll always have that. And it was very experiential. And I met some amazing people. Some of those people I'm still friends with on Facebook. And I love seeing like... Oh,
that's fun.
Like some of the couples that we met, like they now have 2 babies. And they're so cute. And I see them. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so adorable. And so like, it's amazing because we get to meet new people and develop new relationships. And travel really allows us to expand out of our comfort zone and meet new people and do fun things. And so... even if you don't necessarily care for the people you travel with, you'll always remember certain experiences with them. For example, when I went to Italy, I was literally sitting with some of the people in my group, and everybody on the table, there were 5 of us, and all of us were left-handed. Like, where did that ever happen? So I always have the memory of sitting in the hotel in Italy where I sat at a table with 5 other Americans, and we were all left-handed eating Italian steak.
Oh, that's funny.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird, random stuff like that. And that's when I went by myself. But, so.
I don't think I've ever visited anywhere with close friends. I think all of my travels have always been
surrounded by family.
With family, yeah. Like, I've never had the opportunity to go with friends. So that's something I haven't really experienced. Now, sometimes, family can have experiences that you don't like.
Family dynamics are hard sometimes.
Yeah, because you're in different, you live in different places and you come together after, long periods of time, sometimes a year or two, especially coming back after all of the pandemic stuff, we'll say. We won't get into those specifics, but yeah, it's actually... It's different, and I think the more closer and the more intimate and the more you and I like jive well together, it's more and more difficult to kind of like switch those gears once you're around family. I think something that was really interesting that you pointed out when we first got married is that I actually act different when I'm around my family.
Well, it was because, our relationship was kind of interesting in a lot of ways because we traveled for work.
Yeah, and
it caused a lot of frustration in a lot of ways. We had to learn how to, our communication level was not ideal.
Why don't we talk about when we were packing and moving and stuff, because we did that quite a lot.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard because I would have expectations, but I wouldn't know how to communicate it. You would have expectations.
And I would never communicate it.
Right, you wouldn't But the one thing I do appreciate with the amount of travel we have done and everything is it's forced us. It's really forced us to learn how to be more effective in our communication.
Yeah.
And how to understand that when I communicate this way, it's not because I'm mad at you. I've got a lot of things going on and I'm frustrated or whatever. So don't take it personally. Mm-hmm. Ask how you can help. Right. And just different things. Or I had an expectation it was going this way. You clearly didn't have that expectation and we didn't communicate, so that's where all the frustration came from.
Right.
And so it finally took us we've been married, it'll be 9 years.
9 years
in May month. And I think the trip that we took just last weekend, was it last weekend already?
Yeah, it was last week. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That we took last weekend to go spend time with your family in Arizona was the most chill experience we've had in packing up, in going, and then even on the trip, we operated more as a unit. Because early in our marriage, when we would go see your family, you would go right back into, it's me and my family, and I'm just a single guy with my family. And I was like, this feels really awkward. I don't know how to act. It was really hard and awkward for me, especially being an only child, operating in a large family or with a lot of people all the time was very overstimulating for me.
Right.
I didn't know how I fit in. And it was hard. It was a hard adjustment for me. And because you had a certain comfort level with your family, you were like, I don't get the problem. I don't see the issue. I don't know what's going on. And I'm just like...
Because I slipped back into that old...
And the difference...
past.
And my family is different than your family. I was raised differently than you were.
Right.
And so, expectations on how things were done or communicated were completely different. Mm-hmm. And I was getting overwhelmed and frustrated. And you were like, I'm just with my family. So you weren't really paying attention.
Really get it,
yeah, you weren't paying attention to how it was that environment was impacting me. And so I felt really isolated, even though I was surrounded with everybody.
Right.
But we've figured that out, and I'm
so proud of us for doing that.
I know,
like,
right?
It's like we actually set expectations, number one. So like when we were packing up, we actually were just like, okay, so what do we need to do first? We need to, okay, let's start looking at the list. Let's pull stuff out. Let's put it on the table. Let's, move my car out of the garage and let's start pulling camping stuff down. So we're like, and we're talking back and forth, and then we're also really good at being like, well, my expectation is to get this much done this day and this much done that day.
Right. And we didn't necessarily communicate that very clearly the day before we left, because I was still working. Because I work from home.
Right.
So I was still working, and you were getting frustrated because I was trying to do stuff in between my work activities here and there to help, but you were like just sitting and waiting. And you're like, why isn't it? But we figured that out early on.
Yeah, because like after the middle of the day, I was like, so you're going to be working. So maybe I should start just pulling stuff out.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, nobody's stopping you. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is like, I'm a fairly dominant personality, and I get frustrated when things aren't done the way I expect them to be.
Right.
And so, but this is another thing. I've had to learn to let go of some of that stuff and to trust you to do that. And so part of my frustration was that I didn't trust you to do certain things, or didn't think you did them the right way or whatever. And so I had to I had to learn to let go of some of that and trust you to get some of that stuff.
Right. It's like folding towels. It's like, is it really necessary? You fold it into thirds instead of quarters, or it's like, as long as they're folded and put away and they look, like towels stacked up in a linen closet. It's like, why is it that big of a deal? And some of that I had to do as well. But I think we've done so much better now that we've kind of starting to figure it out.
Well, and I think a big part of that is we've had time to build trust with one another. Mm-hmm. Like we've also figured out different things that each of us do that either builds trust with each other or diminishes trust with each other. And we've worked on communicating that. And so when it comes time to plan for travel and everything, it's kind of like, okay. Okay.
It didn't have to be that hard.
Yeah, we were making it much harder than it needed to be.
My mother would say that's borrowing trouble.
Yeah.
Where trouble didn't need to be borrowed.
Right.
And I think we've done a lot better as far as like we are out with family, especially my family, because my family can be very demanding on my time too, because like my mom and stepdad, they slip back into, okay, these are our kids are here, so now we need to give them little jobs and chores to do while we're on vacation, and so that kind of gets demanding as well. But I think some of the things that we've gotten a lot better at, and why this last time that we were visiting with them was so much better, was because I made it a point, when I came back from, talking with them, whatever, came straight to you. Hey, how are things going? Do you need anything?
I think,
do you need some time away? Like what, do we need to go for a walk?
I think that came because when we did go to your families for stuff, like I would get overwhelmed and everything. And I would get upset because you wouldn't check in with me and I was feeling alone and stuff. And so like it took me like having to communicate and being willing to be vulnerable and communicate with you that need.
Right.
Which is hard for me because I get frustrated because it's like, why don't I feel comfortable with these people and stuff? But like,
because you feel vulnerable.
Oh yeah. And it's hard for me to feel vulnerable with people I don't really spend any time with. Right. But you've grown up with them, so you have a certain comfort level and everything with them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. And the difference is I'm an only child. Mm-hmm. Like growing up, it was me, my mom, and my dad. And then when my dad died, it was me and my mom. Mm-hmm. And I'm used to having that intimacy and connection with just one person.
Right.
Even when traveling. Like when me and my mom would travel and stuff, that's the way it was.
And for me and my family, because there are so many people, it's little intimacy spread out across a lot of people. and
I can't, so, like, it's hard for me to do that.
Right.
Especially
when
it's
hard for me to do that too, because, we don't all, especially where we're at in our lives, it's very, very different. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
So, but that's one way that travel, like even traveling has been a catalyst for us in our relationship, to really problem solve, build trust, build communication, and everything. So I love what the experience of traveling has done for us, because yes, we've done some stuff with your family, but we've had the opportunity to travel with just you and me, which is interesting. Like, we didn't get to take a honeymoon. We were freaking poor.
No, we did like a weekend camping, like couple of night, like
we
camping
did
in like
in Sedona, Arizona.
Oh, it was so cold.
It was so cold. I sat in the car and
like literally, like half of the time you're in the car. I need to warm up.
Yeah. So
I think, I lost. Dang it! I lost it. It went away.
Traveling, just you and me.
Keep going. It'll come to me.
Okay, so like we didn't take a honeymoon. It was like a 2-night trip, but that was an interesting trip. We were still.
Oh, now I remember.
Okay.
So like one of the things, like kind of going back to a previous point, for whatever reason it came up just now. But like when you said like you would get overwhelmed, or when you get to the point where you're frustrated about things, and then like your tone would change, I'd be like, why are you upset? So instead of going, why are you upset? Just like, hey, so is everything okay? First of all, and then second of all, are you upset at the situation, or are you upset at me? Because every time that would happen, I would think it was something that I did. And so I'd get offended. I'd get defensive.
And you'd internalize it.
And I'd feel upset.
And then we'd fight.
Yep.
Because you didn't know that when I get frustrated with the situation, I just am I'm very expressive.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm frustrated and in it,
right,
I'm not always cognizant of how I'm coming across to the other person who I'm trying to communicate with.
Right.
And I'm especially not very aware of it when it's somebody who I'm close to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, well, they should know me. They should, you know what I mean?
And then I'm still operating off of, what it was like growing up. And so when people's tone change, that usually means I'm in trouble. So...
And to be fair, sometimes I was frustrated with you.
Yeah, because that's why it's always like, important to clarify.
Why do you have to ask me? Why can't you just do it? Just do it. Stop asking me if you should do it or not. But you're like, I need to ask her if I should do it or not, because she likes things done a very particular way. And
yes, so it's important to have those expectations set, so that I mean, if it's that important, I definitely would like to ensure that my spouse is definitely happy with the way that I'm doing things.
But
if it's that important.
Let's be honest though, you do default to me doing the majority of the planning, the budgeting, the packing lists, all that stuff. You do default.
It is the least path of resistance.
Oh, the path of least resistance, yes. Okay.
So it seems better that you make the list and you say, okay, Jacob, this is the list of things I need to get done. And I go, okay, I can start, finding the stuff from the camping stuff. I can find the stuff out of the pantry and the drawers, getting the different utensils. Like I can start doing that. But also the way that your mind works, you're more analytical, where it needs to be done a certain way. I have to have my list, make sure to get everything checked off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for me, I'm just like, yeah, we just need stuff. Let's just go pull stuff and just get it done.
Oh, see, and that still drives me a little crazy.
Yeah, and that's something that's important, where you got to communicate with your partner. Okay, this is the expectation.
Right.
For me, I'm just like, okay, we do need to get this done at some point, and then you're like, okay, we need to get this done in a certain way.
We need to do this first, so that this is easier and this is easier. See, because I'm like, not only do I say this is what we need, but this is the order in which we need to do it, so it'll be as easy as possible.
Right.
Or as efficient as possible. So like, I think like 3 steps deep, where I'm
just like, I'm still on step 1.
Well, see,
and I might be able to have the capacity to have step 2 right after step 1, but I have no idea what step 3 is.
See, this is the difference. I have step 1, and then step 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, and step 2 step 2B or 2A, 2B, 2C. So I'm like thinking of, this is only one step, Jacob, with all these little subcategories, and you're just like, right. This is just step 1. So that's where our thought processes are different in how we prepare for travel, how we plan, and all that sort of stuff.
And then when you communicate with me, you only give me 2 things. The one thing to start and do and finish, and then the second thing to start on the next.
And I assume you know that step 1 has all these A, B, C's underneath them. And I'm like, why didn't you, like, hello? And you're like, you said this. And I was like, yeah, but this entails this, 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 and this. So it makes travel a very interesting thing.
Right.
Now, I do want to talk about, like, how we travel. Because, like, you have the most of your travel experience is traveling for family and stuff.
Right.
But since we've been married, you've had the opportunity to do some experiential type things. So, like, for instance, we went on a cruise.
Yes. And first cruise that we ever went on. It was
awesome. I had been on a cruise, but it was the first cruise you had ever been on.
Yes.
And it was funny because as we're packing to get ready to go to the airport, it was like a week before the cruise. I'm looking at some of the different excursions we can go on and possibly do. And there's like whale watching and like glass bottom canoes. And because we were going to Mexico,
ATVs at the Aztec temples.
No, that was in in
Cancun.
But when we went on the cruise, like there were all these different water type excursions, and like Jacob says to me, he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do any of that." I'm like, "Why not?" And you're like, "I don't like the water. I don't like the ocean." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yep.
I'm like, so excuse me?
So she already planned it. She already paid for it. Like, starting to talk about excursions.
Mind you, we've been married 4 years at this point. It's almost 5 years at this point. We've been married 5 years. Almost.
Or no, 4 years ago that we did this.
No, 5. It's been 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we'd already been married 5 years.
Yep.
Or 4.5 years at this point. And I had no idea. He didn't like water.
No, like, but, okay. To clarify, I'm fine with water. I am not fine with open water in the ocean.
So I'm sitting there, what? And I'm like, well, let's go on this boat. It's like a speedboat to go whale watching. He's like, the boat's too small. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I am not about to get in anything that's small enough to be a whale's play toy.
Exactly.
And I was oh my gosh.
I mean, and this is coming from somebody who's seen those viral videos of like whales breaching like halfway out of the water and then crashing down on some rubber boat. And I'm just like, oh, hell no. Hell no.
See, and I'm thinking it'll be all cool. The boat, the whale will come up to the side of the boat and we'll get to rub its nose. And see, so we had total different perceptions of what that experience would be like.
And we didn't communicate very well on that one either.
A week before we go, the trip's all paid for. Tickets are bought, everything. What? Yeah. Okay.
And I'd never been on a cruise or a boat like that on the ocean either. So I was just like, so it was new territory for me. And I'm just like, I don't feel very comfortable with this.
And you're like, I'm really nervous. I'm like, now you tell me? Now? You didn't tell me this when I was looking on Expedia to book the freaking cruise?
Yep. That's exactly what happened.
It was so funny. But you ended up liking it. You're like, okay, a cruise ship isn't so bad. It's just like a big hotel on water.
And it's a big floating hotel on water. I loved it.
You did. And we were in the front of the boat, so we felt the...
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, we felt this. And you were like, that's really nice. I actually slept really good because it was really soothing for you.
Very soothing. And it was fun, too, because you could watch the curtains, like, go back and forth in our suite. Oh, it was,
It was really fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I'd definitely do that again. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, so...
Excursions?
See, and this is where we differ, because, like, we did the cruise, and I was, like, trying to book excursions. You're like, nah. And I was getting frustrated, because I'm like...
They all sounded like too much work on a vacation.
And this is why he would have hated the trip to Italy. Walking 10 miles a day, like being around people.
Any kind of trip to, bigger cities, bigger, skyscrapers. I would never go to New York.
Okay, but like I went to where did I go?
I don't know. Where did you go?
I went to all these, but like Tuscany was beautiful in Italy. It was big, wide open spaces, vineyards. Like, I think you would love that. And I want to go to the Amalfi Coast. Like, there's all these experiences I want to have, but I have to be careful and manage my expectations because it's like, okay, is this a trip I'm going to have to do by myself without Jacob because I want to go, or do I get a group of friends to try and go with me and stuff? But that's even hard because people all have lives.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, trying to sync that up is pretty difficult.
Yeah. Well, and people have different priorities, right? And especially people our age, they all have kids.
Yeah.
Right? They don't, like, they're spending their money on trips with their kids versus trips with friends. And we don't have kids. So it's like, I would say, I would love to find, like, a fun travel companion, like, couple that we could go on trips with. And do trips with and have fun. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, when you're unsure of the expectations of the other the other couple, like, you really have to sit down and be like, okay, so Jacob does not really like to go and do a lot of things. He just wants to chill and hang out. Like, honestly, the best thing about that cruise was that you could go and eat at different places. Like, you could go sit at the pools.
It was the chill. Like, and I was frustrated because I'm like, this is boring.
I loved the movie thing at the pool. That was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we'd get on the lounge chairs and put get a towel blanket. And we watched Mamma Mia 1 and 2 there. It was like, honestly, like, I love the chill vacations. I'm just at the point now. I don't know if it's my age or just I just, unless it's something like super educational, maybe. But like, as far as like, no,
I don't think you would, because I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, you would have like
I love, like, when we went to that museum out in what was it, Indiana? Was it Indiana or Illinois?
It was Ohio.
It was Ohio. Like, that was actually really interesting. The Jewish historical museum.
So like, you do enjoy that.
Like, I really like historical stuff is really, really interesting to me.
So you might have liked Rome because we went through the Vatican, and that was kind of
that would be kind of cool.
But it was, I will say, it was kind of hard. And I went on the down season, and it felt like I was a freaking cow being herded, like, because there's just so many people. And we went in the down season. Right, so like,
and that was the down season. You were just like, this is way too many people.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't have liked that either. Because
so that's why, because I had a certain expectation, and I went by myself, right? Because it was a trip. I was given the opportunity to go with the chamber. It was awesome, and I had a certain expectation to be like wowed and awed.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be that wowed and awed because I had
be hurried off to the next thing.
Right. I was just being like herded through. And like, I was with a tour group, so it's not like I could sit and experience anything that really talked to me. Yeah. Either.
Did they even like give like, so in this spot here is historically interesting because of XYZ.
We had a tour guide who did that, but it was.
I don't like the idea of tour guides and stuff. So, I'd like to go there and then figure out while we're there, like, what would be interesting to go to.
So I think and that's the other thing is, like, I went on a tour group, and so like I had to stay with a group. So my experience was kind of dictated by this group, as opposed to if I would have planned an experiential trip with you, it would have been different. Yeah. But the advantage to traveling in those tour groups is you can kind of go and get acclimated to what you want to see, or what you want to experience again, or what you want to gain a deeper experience of. So like when I went to Ireland, it was with the tour group. And we got to do some things that was pretty fun, but I was like, ooh, when I come back, I want to do this. Or I want to explore this more, or this. And when I went to Italy, I kind of was like, ooh, I'd love to come back with Jacob and plan a trip that we get to have and go through and experience this a little bit more, or experience this or this. You know what I mean? So it's a good way to kind of going on these group tours and stuff is cool. But I think being able to individualize your experience is also really helpful, but you wouldn't necessarily know how to create that that individualized experience had you not had like a teaser or a taster of like the tour. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but also like you want to be close by to like where like your hotel and stuff is at, because if it gets to the point where you're just like, all right, I'm not really digging this.
Yeah.
You know, you could either go back to the hotel or you could go to a different spot and stuff like that. That's why, for me personally, I like the expectation of following a tour, like, you know, with guides and stuff like that. And it's dictated at certain times. Okay, at certain times you're going to be here, you're going to do this, and then we're going to move on to this. And I'm just, I don't like that. I don't like having an itinerary for like a vacation.
But think about it this way. When you're in a completely foreign land or foreign country and you don't really know the culture or speak the language or know the area or how to navigate, because it's a completely different culture, especially overseas, mm-hmm. that actually can be really helpful and kind of comforting in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Well, but I think you could prepare a lot with like, you know, Google and like YouTube and different websites and stuff like that, and even like talking to people who, you know, speak your language, who know the area really well. Like you could get a lot of information without having a lot of that. And
there are a lot of people that do videos on YouTube and stuff that you can. So I get that. Like traveling has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, with the technological advancements since like the computer and the internet, it's really changed. Like the way that you can do stuff now with traveling. Right. It's actually pretty cool.
But one thing I do like,
I think we're kind of getting off track here.
Well, not really, because like, so this kind of plays into like what you learn about yourself when you travel, mm-hmm. and like what I learn about myself when I travel by myself versus mm-hmm. in a group or with people that I don't know mm-hmm. versus with people I do know versus somebody who I'm in a relationship with. So like when we went to Cancun, mm-hmm. I had this expectation that we were going to go and do all this fun excursion stuff, and we ended up not going on one of our excursions because we were all zapped from the sun and we just wanted to sleep.
My gosh, we spent so much time at the pool just eating and drinking and just having a good time with our group. We had actually a really cool group to go to. Like everybody was pretty chill.
Yeah, they were nice.
Like they weren't like partiers and just be like, ooh, let's get like crazy drunk. Like I think a couple of them like kind of went a little overboard every once in a while, but
not when we were with them.
Yeah, and for the most part, it was pretty awesome.
But we were kind of the outside couple. Like the group that we were with, they kind of all had different associations with each other and work with each other on some level. We were kind of the only couple that didn't really have a relationship or strong relationship.
Yeah, coming into this group.
Yeah, so. And they were cool. They were way cool.
They were very cool. They were very cool.
And it was fun, but it also kind of gave us an experience like, ooh, an all expenses resort, like because we'd been on a cruise.
Just and whenever you wanted food, I will order food.
And then we go to a all inclusive resort that like everything's included, and we had a suite on the beach, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want this. Like, this is the way to travel. And we had like this huge tub in our suite. Like,
well, huge relatively speaking. Bigger than any other tubs we've ever experienced.
We both got in it.
Yeah, it was like a tiny spa. No, tiny. It's kind of like a tiny hot tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I mean, we had a lovely experience.
Yeah, and some of the stuff we did was pretty fun. Like, I liked the meal on the beach, except for it was just way too windy.
Gosh, it was so windy.
Like I was getting motion sickness because the light was just kind of like doing this thing, and I'm just like, what is happening right now?
I know, and I was like, I've got to plan something. So I planned that. I wanted to do some other stuff too, but I don't know. Like I really wanted to do the 4-wheeler ride into the
I kind of did too, but we didn't plan very well for it.
Well, and here's the other thing is we didn't really have, that was our first experience traveling somewhere. Like that was our first experiential type other than the cruise, but the cruise is kind of different because you're on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And you go off onto the like I don't really count that as, I don't know. I mean, it's nice, but like that's the only other
the experience was it was on a ship instead of in a hotel on the seaside. So
we've only had two trips together, really, like that's out of the country, ironically both to Mexico.
They're cheap.
It's cheap. But with each one we've learned a little bit more about the type of experiences we want to have together.
Yeah.
And like the type of trips we want to plan in the future.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people where you want to like go to excursions, you want to like see different sites. I want to
experience the culture. Like that's the whole point. Make memories.
And I'm like, do a couple of things, but mostly just chill.
So I know
having a balance of those two things. Like,
so that's the other thing is like when we're planning our next trip, we got to plan that we're going to be one. It takes me at least 3 days to actually settle the freak down and be able to actually reset. If it's 3 days or less, then it's like it's kind of a waste for me.
Yeah, it needs to be a week and you're going to have a few days to get acclimated to your new surroundings, new place to sleep, new bed, new pillows, and different people. You don't know anybody.
And I will be honest, on those tours, like you're sometimes in a different hotel every other night. And so,
really?
Yes.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Well, it depends on the tour you take and everything. But yeah, that was the case on the tours that I took over in Europe and Italy and stuff. But so I've learned a lot about myself. So this is like what I learned about myself and traveling. Like I learned I hate the travel days. Oh, and those stress me out. So like getting to the airport, getting there on time, having to figure out transportation, going through security, then having to wait if you have a connecting flight. And I swear I will never, ever book a flight where I have a connecting flight out of JFK. I learned.
Where's that at?
It's in New York.
New York?
Okay. So there's 2 airports in New York. There's JFK and the Reagan International Airport. I will never, ever, ever go through JFK again. I will pay extra to not have to go through JFK because it was horrific going through customs, trying to find. It was just, it was, the experience was awful. And when we went to Ireland, we actually found a one-way trip to Ireland or England. Or London, where we flew in. And then when we flew back, it flew from London to Vegas. So we were lucky that we found those flights. But I think the tour group I went with, Italy, they were getting the cheapest flights possible.
Yeah, so, honestly, you get like that's one of the things that's really interesting about flying is that you really do get what you pay for.
Yeah. So
you want the extra room, pay the extra money.
Right.
You get business class.
And I've realized that because I do not like crowds, because I do not like certain things, I can take and accommodate those certain needs, but it's going to cost a little bit more, right? So I've got to plan and save differently or accordingly, right?
Right.
And I told my boss when I got back from Italy, I said, dude, if I ever fly international again, or if we ever take a trip as a company, we are chartering a private jet because I am done with this public transportation air flight crap. It's ugh. And he's like, okay.
Fair enough.
But because I find that like even when we went to Cancun and flying in to Mexico, that was stressful.
Yeah.
That was stressful.
Like hundreds of people like trying to get you to jump in their taxi and you're just like, where's the one we're supposed to go to?
But here's the other thing is because that like Mexico, like tourism is like one of their biggest GDP, like it's how they make a lot of their income, right? So, and you know, it's a little bit scary. Things that have been happening in Mexico can get a little bit scary with cartels and hostages and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, that's one it kind of reminds me. Yeah, it reminds me of the sign that's like preventative measure of getting kidnapped. Eat cake.
Eat cake. Oh, I'm so glad.
Because it's harder for somebody to like. I'm like, dude, if it was between me and some little skinny American girl, they're going for the skinny girl, right? She's easier to pick up and carry off.
That's fair. That's why we're working very, very hard to have better relationships with our bodies. We're going to that gym and we're eating high protein and. Yeah.
But here's the other thing: is these travel experiences help me understand that I could have a much more fulfilling experience if my body was in a different condition. Mm-hmm. And it would be much more pleasant. Mm-hmm. Perhaps I could actually experience things that I maybe am not in the condition to do. Now, when I went to Italy, we walked like 10 miles a day and I was good, but I account that to MetaPower.
Yeah.
Because the MetaPower that I'm taking, which is freaking gold, it has that NMN in it, which is NMN. You guys look it up. And if you need access to this MetaPower stuff, I tell you what, it is gold. I mean, because I will tell you.
Link in the description.
Yeah. So there is actually NMN in it, which helps with brain fog. It helps with recovery. It helps with muscle soreness, joints, all that stuff. And it actually has an anti-aging element to it. There's a lot of stuff online about it right now, but I took that when I was in Italy. And I'm like, I have like a sedentary job. It's not like I have a very active job. I sit most of the time. I don't walk a ton during the day or anything. And it's getting better because I'm doing healthier habits.
Yes. We're doing so good. These last few weeks, last week, excuse me.
Right.
Did really good.
But the fact that I went to Italy and was walking on average like 10 miles a day through Rome and through, it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sore at all because I took my MetaPower sachets and mixed them in the morning. And like, I got sore like towards the end of the day and stuff. But like, if I took that in the morning, I would wake up and I was ready to go.
Yeah.
My fatigue, muscles, like all the stuff I anticipated kind of having because I wasn't used to walking that much, I didn't even have.
Right.
And I will say like the impact of jet lag didn't even have that. Like I did have a little bit, but not that much.
Right.
I recovered pretty quickly. And I seriously think it's because MetaPower. Because it really was. And so I'm grateful that I have that, but it also helped me to realize I want to have a better experience when I travel. And to do that, I want to have a healthier body so that I can go hike to a gorgeous secluded waterfall on a Hawaiian island somewhere, or take a bike ride into the rainforest in Mexico or in Bali, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and have the energy for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then have the energy to do the excursions because we're not wiped out after only 2 days at Mexico.
Just sitting in the pool and eating and drinking.
And like being in the sun, right?
Being in the sun, yeah.
So it's just like...
We were so sunburned.
But we didn't have MetaPower back then either.
That is true.
I think if we would have had MetaPower on our Cancun trip, we would have been fine.
Probably. Because like, especially when I work and I deliver packages and I'm up and down, in and out of my vehicle like 100 plus times a day, I get, especially when I'm having to look left and right all the time, like my neck is always like really bad. I used to ice my neck like
every single
night, like even sometimes in the morning.
Yeah.
And
I
think I did it once this week.
Yeah.
But that was because it was after going to the gym.
Well, that's true. You did some extra activity.
Yeah.
But you're not icing nearly as much as you had to.
I used to ice my back as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff is incredible. Like we're gonna be taking that until the day we die.
Oh, you guys,
it's so good.
It is golden, and it has like the NMN. Like you guys, I get compliments on my skin all the time. And I think it's because of the MetaPower. It helps with elasticity in your skin. Mm-hmm. It helps with brain fog. Like the collagen in this is like amazing. So that is my big commercial for it. But
check our link in the description down below.
But I'm telling you, like having a positive relationship with your body in traveling makes a huge difference. And so like going on all these different trips or traveling in allowing myself to have experiences is helping me gain a deeper why as to why I want to reach my goals with my body.
Yeah.
Right. And it's giving me something to look forward to as I'm working towards my goals with my body. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get super ripped or I'm going to get super fit so that I can go do a bike ride with my husband, come back to the hotel room and have an amazing connection session where we wash dishes and then wake up the next morning and be ready to go all again.
Sensual intimacy. That's a good way to put it. The sensual intimacy.
Yeah. So like, this is why I think giving yourself the opportunity to develop a healthy relationship with traveling, and not just with family, but traveling to meet and experience new people, new places, new things, is really important. Not only for memories, but to develop as a person, because you learn so much about yourself. Yeah, like, I learned so much about myself, even traveling with Jacob to go to his family. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I'd be like this happy-go-lucky person. No, I'm like, oh crap, I react different. Like, this feels differently than I expected.
I'm having triggers right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what I mean?
What's happening? Yeah.
But it's good because it was a mirror for me, and I've learned to figure things out, and I've developed more as a person. And traveling with another person, it helps you understand like how to communicate more effectively. Like, we've learned how to communicate effectively with each other.
Oh, we've gotten so much better. So much. I mean, it's a, it's a journey. Like, we're constantly working not only on ourselves, but we're definitely working on our relationship with each other. Well, that's something that's
and we have really to be willing to do that. And that's the thing. I think some of the time that we were traveling, we were both being kind of selfish.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I agree with that statement.
And so I think one of the other reasons why this trip that we just took last weekend went so well and so smooth is because we've really been working on our relationship with each other and with ourselves. Like, both of us have been listening to podcasts that are really
relationship focused.
Yeah. And relationship focus with the self and relationship focus as a couple. Shout out to the To Be Better podcast.
The Chris's. We've been listening to them when we drive. Great stuff.
So, and you've been listening to them on your own.
I've already completed their library and just kind of listening to whatever comes out now. I powered right through it in like a week and a half.
See, and I haven't yet because I have several other podcasts I listen to and everything.
Yeah, but it's definitely my rotation now.
But sure. I will say, the steps that you have taken to communicate with me have helped our relationship leaps and bounds. And the steps I have taken to do some personal work, like doing NLP and everything, has helped our relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Leaps and bounds. Because I've learned to manage my expectations. I've learned to trust more and trust you more. And you've learned to figure out ways to help build that trust with me more. Like, it's so symbiotic. And I've learned
in the flow.
Yeah, I've learned how to communicate. So, but I think traveling with each other has given us the opportunity to identify what we need to adjust and change, and then given us an opportunity to also practice what we're learning.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So, I think, so based off of all this conversation, Jacob, and based off of our experiences,
our short 9 years of experience,
dude, can you believe it's going to be 9 years this end of this month?
Yeah, we're still going strong.
Dude, it got a little bit sketchy there.
Yeah,
year 7 and 8.
Yeah, and that was when the pandemic hit, so we got all of that on top of our year 7.
We got the pandemic on top of our 7-year itch.
Yeah, it was. And on top of that, we had a foster child, and
yeah, no, it's okay. We are super blessed. I'm super grateful for the learnings
for sure
that we've been able to have. But with the experiences we've had with travel, like we've been able to travel to the cabins, with your father's side of the family. We've been able to go to Arizona with your mother's side of the family.
Yep.
And kind of do the travel that you're used to. Mm-hmm. But then we've also had some experiential training together, experiential training. Travel together.
Yes.
But then you've also traveled separately with like your job with Vivint and stuff, and know what it's like to travel separately from me. And I do the same from you. Like I've traveled separately from you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's okay. Some people are like, you guys don't travel?
Tough. Like when it got to the point where we were no longer doing it together, I think those last 2 years were pretty rough too.
Yeah.
Because we were apart from each other for
a long
periods of time, which I honestly don't think it's healthy. I
It's hard.
Definitely wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I think if anybody's like, hey, I'm thinking about, becoming a technician that travels, 6 to 8 months out of the year, what are your thoughts? I'd be like, if you can't bring your your wife and kids, don't bother. It's just not worth the extra stress. It's not worth the extra issues that arise, because now you're losing all that intimacy, you're losing all that connection, the physical, spiritual, mental connections that you have with your significant other. So I definitely would not recommend that to anybody.
Well, and the communication kind of breaks down.
Yeah, it does. Like you lose touch,
and you become more in that roommate type relationship when you're together.
But you're not supposed to mess around. So it's like,
well, but even when you come back together, we were more like roommates versus a married couple.
Mm-hmm. It took us a couple of weeks to kind of get back into
and
that
to find
rhythm.
a groove. Well, yeah. So, but we learned a lot, and it was a huge adjustment when you were home full time as opposed to gone 6 months out of the year.
Yes, that was very interesting too, because once we got to that point where, I wasn't going to be gone to the summer. I wasn't gone,
I was like, where's my break?
Out of every month. Yeah. Where's that break to, and then we didn't have that anymore. And because we were out of practice, of having that connection and stuff when we first got married, it was hard to get back into that.
Yeah. And I was an only child, so I was like, oh, yay, I get my alone time. Because I am a introverted extrovert, which means I can go be around people and I can engage with them and stuff. But if I don't get an opportunity to reset my battery and be by myself, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And so when you came back and we're home full time, I was struggling to find that balance, and even struggling to find a way to ask for that alone time so that I could recharge my batteries and not have you internalize it and think it was you. And it's like, no, it's not you.
Because that's what would happen. It's like, hey, I need to just I need to go for a drive, or hey, I'm going to go hang out with somebody, from the local whatever, or hey, I'm going to go upstairs and read my book. And I'm just like, what did I do? And because I didn't recognize that was, you needed the time for yourself, that you could recharge your battery so that you can proceed to the next part of whatever's happening that day or that week or whatever the case may be.
And so it took a minute for me to be able to express that in a way in which you were able to say, oh, okay, it's not me.
Right.
She doesn't hate me. She doesn't
So it was
like
really
me.
important. Like years ago when I was just like, okay, when I started asking you, okay, is this something that I did or didn't do? Or is this something that,
yeah. And we didn't really have to express. I didn't really have to express it because you would be gone 6 months out of the year. And that's when I would have my batteries recharged. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, I'm ready.
These last, 3 years, 4 years?
3.
Now that I've been
2.5.
2.5, 3. Like it's been.
It was 2020. No. It was 2020. So it was May of 2020.
Well, it's 2023.
So it's been 3 years.
Yeah. So it's been, almost exactly 3 years, because I went out that summer, like at the beginning of May.
Like next week it'll be.
Yeah. Next week you're right. 3 years.
Yeah. So, but I like and the other reason why I like travel and how it helps me develop a stronger relationship with myself is I learn so much more about myself and how I engage with the world when I travel, as opposed to when I'm sitting in a traditional classroom learning about, like, I can sit in a class online or in a classroom reading about the architecture, and like I took a humanities class where we kind of reviewed all this stuff about Rome and everything, but it was so different.
Yeah.
It was so different being able to go there and look at it and see it in person and experience it.
And all the people and the way that they, like the different mannerisms that they use, the way that they use their facial features. Because like everybody does that differently everywhere else.
Yeah. And Italy is really, really interesting. So people in Italy don't learn English usually. That's why they do a tour guide. And so you kind of are relying on a tour guide to translate unless you speak Italian, right? So I did not. So that's why I'm like, if I go to Italy, I'm gonna take some time to learn some key Italian. But then I'm also going to...
Where's the bathroom?
But then I'm going to also, like... I connected with my tour guide from Italy, and I said, when I come back, will you put together a tour for me and my husband and be our personal tour guide? And she's like, absolutely. And I said, great. So like I can say, okay, we want to experience this and this. We want to have some time here and here, like free time to like experience the culture. Because that's the one thing you don't get on a lot of tours and stuff. If you don't get time to be immersed and truly experience the culture. So it's like, I want to spend a couple of days in each place and really just kind of quench my thirst of the culture a little bit more. You know what I mean? And just truly experience the culture and the energy of that place, and not just the touristy part of it.
Well, that's something that's really interesting about like human beings just in general is it's like if you really do take the time and you sit and you watch I don't want to sound creepy, but if you watch people interact with each other or they speak or when they're just sitting there just minding their own business, like it's really interesting to see how people interact differently. And I think that would definitely be part of it. Like, I mean, some of the places I want to go see, like I want to see New Zealand. I want to see Australia. I want to see Germany and different parts of Europe.
You want to see the big coconut crabs?
Yeah. Sure.
Those things are scary.
Sure, let's see the coconut
Speaking
crabs.
of, we got to check on our friend in the garage.
Friend in the garage?
Remember the spider?
Oh, that big.
I think he came back. I think he came back from Arizona with us last weekend.
I hope not.
He was huge. Okay, sorry.
I didn't look at him closely. I don't know what.
He's the size of a quarter.
He's pretty big.
Oh my gosh, it's scary.
Pretty big.
Anyway, sorry. Total derailment, but I don't know how much time. Where are we at, babe?
Whenever you want, babe.
Are we?
I mean, I'm hungry, but if we've gone through all of our. Have we gone through all of our questions and all of our points?
The only other thing is knowing everything. I kind of got derailed, but what would be your ideal travel experience? What is your next ideal travel experience?
That's a good question. Having been on a cruise and having been on a all-inclusive resort, something similar to that is really cool. I think planning maybe 2, maybe 3 things that you actually go to and do, I think is a good idea, instead of trying to fill up the day of just like, boom, boom, bam, bam. And like I thought it would be like a lot more interesting if we like went into, the different places like in Mexico and actually like, try different restaurants and experience the people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we did get to do a little bit of that, but just not a ton. I think that would be more interesting than like, trying to get on these different excursions and like, like trying to fill up the day with, a bunch of things. Just find like a few key things and go and do those things. but definitely keep it as like, you know, a chill thing. Like if I was going to go to Germany, like I'd probably want to plan to try to figure out with my family where our German ancestors are from. And
where the Reimschussels
yes.
Reimschussels come from.
Yes, the Reimschussels come from. And, you know, like what did they do? Like were they carpenters? Did they build shoes? Like
dentists. They were dentists, babe.
Well, my grandfather
I know,
was.
I'm
Yes,
just
but
kidding.
I'm talking about like what about his ancestors? And,
right.
You know, where are they buried? Like what did they do? Like what was important to them? And just kind of see like what would be like having a couple of opportunities to go see the different places like where they lived, you know, in the cities, and then like maybe experience some restaurants there and the people. I think that would be, you know, a really great day. Not like
so would Germany like
Germany's definitely on my bucket list for sure.
So would going over to like Germany and maybe a few other places over there be your next like international travel? Or
if I could choose like for myself, yeah. And, you know, I would love for you to come along with me, of course.
Let's be clear. You're not going out of the country without me. I can go out of the country without you. But you
is that?
I'm just
what?
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I can't believe you just said that on the podcast. No, that's not the
only reason
case.
why I say that is because the both times I have gone over to the European countries, it's been without you.
Yeah. The first time, you know, it was kind of a girls thing, and the second time you were sponsored to go out. So
yeah, I didn't have to pay for the trip,
and we weren't in a spot really. Well, I mean, we could have made it work, but we didn't really want to, you know.
We could have put it on credit cards if we really wanted to go, but we didn't.
We didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having that much time off of work, it would have been hard.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is if you're not working, you're not making money. So.
Well, you are.
Currently, yes.
I get PTO, so
yes, that's what we're working for when we move, is to get me a position where I can get PTO until we get our podcast up and going and making money.
Well,
so.
I mean, yes, we've got a lot of things that are coming down the pike, but
yeah,
I will say, I think I have two different expectations. So, like stateside, I would like to go somewhere down south. Mm-hmm. Maybe like Tennessee or South Carolina or something.
South and North Carolina are interesting places.
Yeah. But like experience kind of like go do like a really nice Airbnb secluded in the woods on a river or something stateside. On the States. In the States.
I wouldn't mind going back to Savannah, Georgia. We didn't get to see a whole lot there, even though
we did have fun there when we lived there.
We did, but we didn't get to see a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
So I wouldn't mind going to
living there.
Yeah, South Carolina, because South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia are all kind of close. That we could probably maybe do a few things. Maybe go to Florida and go to Harry Potter World.
That'd be interesting.
And then
Universal Studios out there?
Yeah.
I don't want to do Disney.
No. Okay. Anyway,
but
we're not getting into that. I'm
just saying that it would be really cool to see like Universal Studios, Warner Brothers Studios.
Like I don't want to do SeaWorld. Not all. Don't want to do SeaWorld.
Yeah.
But there's some experiences I want to have. Like there's several trips I want to plan to take, and like. I think I'd rather have a smaller home.
Mm-hmm. And travel more.
Have less expenses like for a home.
See, now you're seeing it the way I see it.
Yeah, but I don't want to live in a trailer either.
Well, that was just one of the many suggestions. Okay. My other suggestions were tiny house.
I'm like, okay, Jacob, but we're not tiny people. I mean, you are 6'3". There's no way you could live in a tiny house. You would get frustrated.
We could figure it out.
You would get frustrated the minute you'd have to climb up into a loft bedroom where you couldn't stand up fully.
Yeah, we'd figure it out.
Okay, whatever. Anyway.
We'd just be outside more and like in the city.
You said you don't like the city.
No, I mean like in town. I mean, not like not like in a big city, but like in the smaller towns.
Okay. But then I'd also like to take you back and go and experience Europe. So like go and do Germany with you, Ireland, Scotland, because the history there is so rich and it's so green and so beautiful. And like because that's where my heritage is from. I'm like Scottish, Irish, and Welsh. Like it feels
like home. A little bit.
Yeah, there's like you feel connected to it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Like that wanderlust kicks in so much when I start thinking about Ireland and Scotland, and like even Wales was fun, and just I just want to travel more, and I want to have those memories with you.
Yeah.
But I also want to have friends that could go. So like I would love to have like travel companions, or maybe do small group tours where it's only like 2 or 3 couples or something, and maybe they're from a whole different country, but like
maybe
it's a little bit more intimate instead of like a huge bus of like 50 people. You're on a smaller tour of like 10.
But either way, you might get stuck with somebody that is not the most pleasant to be around.
But you know what though? That's still a memory. Right? That's still a memory that you get to look back on and be like, oh my gosh, remember so-and-so on that one trip? Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? So like it can still be an experience and a memory. So I wouldn't mind doing that. Cause
maybe
some of the memories I have, like the couples that we went to Ireland with, like, holy crap, I laughed so hard. They got a couple of glasses of wine in them and they were freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just remember laughing so hard walking down the streets in Galway, and like they were cracking jokes because they had one, and it was just, I was laughing so much and having such a good time, and I would have never had that experience had I not gone on that tour. So that's why I'm like, I kind of want to be open to experiencing maybe smaller group tours and stuff, and being open to meeting new people, to traveling and meeting new people in a group too.
Yeah. And
I think that would be kind of fun.
Well, I'm definitely open.
You know,
I'm more open than I have been.
I know, because let's be honest, there were times where you weren't open, and I want to commend you so much. I think having gone on cruises and doing some of this stuff has definitely helped you be more open to more experiences. Well, outside of just traveling for family.
And I think also we're doing a lot better as, you know, doing give and takes.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah.
So you'll give a little, I'll give a little, like take a little here, take a little there. I think we've done a lot better at doing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I think I really think traveling with the people you care about is an important aspect of developing a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. It provides a lot of opportunity to deepen your relationship with people and even with yourself. So that's why travel is kind of a magical thing. And like, it should be something I personally like. It's a big why for me because it helps me learn. And so it's amazing. I encourage people to travel and give themselves an opportunity to have different experiences, because it will definitely, if you're open to it, give you an opportunity to deepen your relationships on multiple levels with multiple areas, people, places, things, everything. So, and give you character and even broaden your perspective of what's available.
Yeah. Try new things.
Right? And like, it even gives you like what's possible in your life. Yeah. It gives you a whole new set of things to like look forward to and grow to. And you just, the amount of growth you get in relationship to anything when you travel is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I want to thank you guys all for joining in or for watching. And if you listening to us pontificate. But really, I'd love to hear your feedback, comments, things that you've learned about yourself as you've traveled, or about different cultures or anything. I'd love to hear what you've learned and how you've developed relationships through travel. So feel free to comment. You can always send us an email at Reanne, REANNE itsallrelational@gmail.com. I'd love to hear some of your stories and hear about what your experiences have been. And just remember, everyone, it's all relational. Thanks, and have a great night.
Good night, everybody.